Hello, my name is Christopher Scott from the Biblical Leadership blog at christopherscottblog.com, and today I'm going to talk about the two strategies that nonprofit organizations can use to recruit volunteers for their organization. So two basic strategies that I'm going to provide to you that you can use to recruit any type of volunteer that you need for your nonprofit organization, whether it's a church or social services or any type of nonprofit. And so today, this material that I'm going to be sharing with you is some of the material that I teach in the workshops that I've conducted for the Center for Nonprofit Management in Dallas and Fort Worth. So these videos are part of a series about how to recruit volunteers on YouTube here that I just want to share and hopefully reach more people and help them recruit volunteers for their nonprofit organizations. So let's go ahead and get started. These two strategies that I'm going to talk about today are casting wide is the first strategy, and then casting deep is the second strategy. So you're going to cast wide for volunteers is the first strategy, then you're going to cast deep for the other types of volunteers for your nonprofit organization. So let's go ahead and start talking about the two. So there's two elements of a wide volunteer recruitment strategy. Two elements of a wide volunteer recruitment strategy. Those two elements are what you ask for and how you ask. What you ask for with these volunteers is you're going to ask for large volunteer needs, mostly unskilled volunteers that don't have to have a lot of training. You're asking for people that can do basic work, crisis needs when things come up or disasters happen, and then holiday events where you don't need highly skilled volunteers, you just need bodies to help you do the work. So when you're casting wide for volunteers, you're looking for your large volunteer needs, people that don't have to have a lot of training, people that are unskilled, people that you might need in a disaster response situation or holiday events, things like that. The other element of wide volunteer recruitment is how you ask. These volunteers that you're trying to recruit using that wide methods are going to be people that you're trying to recruit all year long. You're going to be attempting to recruit them all year. You're always going to be needing these volunteers. They're going to be people that you're going to use a variety of methods to reach, right? So you're going to use advertisements on your website. You're going to use print methods in the newspaper if you can. You're going to use messaging in your donor appeals, information in your newsletters and flyers, things like that. You're also going to use any type of digital mediums that you have. So if you do put information on your website, you're going to put your wide volunteer needs on there all the time, any email newsletters that you provide, things like that. As well as in person, if you ever give speeches to organizations or groups of people and you're talking about your work, these volunteer needs that you have, the wide volunteer needs where you need unskilled, untrained people, is going to be the place that you're going to want to try to recruit them, right? Additionally, you're going to look for social media, so any type of Facebook or Twitter accounts the organization has, you're going to want to use those to recruit volunteers in a wide manner. And then there's some other volunteer recruitment websites out there that it can help you recruit these types of volunteers, such as volunteermatch.org. Volunteermatch.org, that's the best one that I've had success with as far as getting volunteers recruited from. There's also idealist.org, handson.org, some other very good ones out there too. But volunteermatch.org is usually the best one that I have found for recruiting volunteers. Additionally, when you're casting wide and trying to recruit a lot of volunteers, you can use community websites in your community calendars in your community. So if there's any local newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, things like that, you can try to provide your volunteer needs on those websites or on those community calendars to help recruit volunteers for your organization. So we've talked about there's two main strategies that you want to use when you are trying to recruit volunteers. Wide strategies, which is what we've talked about, and then deep strategies. And when you're using the wide strategies, you're trying to cast your net for volunteers pretty wide, throw it out there to as many people as you can. There's 10 attention-getting words that Yale University has found are the most effective at getting people's attention and drawing them in for nonprofit organizations. So some of these attention-getting words that Yale University has found that you're going to want to use when you try to recruit volunteers, you're going to want to use these words such as gain, earn, new, avoid, get, health, free, secret, unique, and profit. So if you can use any of those 10 words in your outreach, whether it's a print advertisement for your volunteer need or you talking about it in front of a group, if you can use those 10 words, those will help you recruit volunteers, right? So there's two main volunteer recruitment methods: wide and then deep, right? So we've talked about the wide. That's where you cast a wide net. You're trying to recruit as many people as you can. You don't really need to train them. You just need them for a short period of time to work with them. The second way that you're going to want to recruit volunteers is deep, okay? Deep. So there's going to be what you ask for and then how you ask. When you recruit deep, what you're going to ask for is you're going to be very, very specific for what you need for your organization. You're looking for people with special skills and needs. You're focusing on recruiting just a couple of volunteers. You don't need 100 people to help you at a holiday event. You need, 3 counselors to help you in your organization, 1 day a month. You're very specific. And then these are people, when you're doing deep recruitment, that you're going to want to interview and conduct background checks and do extensive work with up front before you let them volunteer, right? So first we talked about the wide recruitment strategies. You're just posting your information anywhere, trying to get anybody you can. The deep strategy here is you're being very, very specific for what you need and who you're looking for. Additionally, how you ask these people to volunteer is also going to be different than the wide method. So in the deep method, how you ask is going to be different because you're going to want to go to specific people or organizations that you think might be good candidates. So you're not going to just post this out there and let anybody respond. You, as the person recruiting volunteers, want to specifically look for people that you think will be good volunteers for you. So you might approach churches, service clubs, advertising firms, specific businesses maybe that have a philanthropic focus. So for example, Walmart likes to invest in nonprofit organizations that address hunger and women's shelters, right? Those are the two areas. Target looks at education and reading literacy, right? So if you have a program and you're looking for volunteers specifically for those areas that these businesses have a focus on, you're going to want to go to those organizations and pitch your organization and your program to them and ask them if they will volunteer for you. Because you're not just looking for anybody, you're looking for people with a specific interest in your program and the things that you do. So I have some other ones. When we teach the workshop, I go through about 12 different companies and their philanthropic focus. I don't think that's really applicable to us, but I guess I'll list them anyway, just in case you are looking for volunteers and maybe one of these organizations is in your community and you might be able to approach them. So UPS, their philanthropic focus is diversity and underrepresented communities, community safety, and environmental energy conservation and reforestation for UPS. For KPMG, the accounting and auditing firm, KPMG, they're interested in literacy, disaster relief, high school accounting education, and workforce readiness. That's KPMG. Staples, they're looking at, they're interested in emergency education funds. Pepsi wants to support healthy lifestyles, provides help in job readiness, and empowering girls and women. That's Pepsi. FedEx wants to help nonprofits in the area of disaster readiness and recovery, pedestrian and road safety, and environmental sustainability. That's FedEx. Kohl's Department Stores wants to help with kids' health and education, environmental solutions, and women's health and education. That's Kohl's. And then AT&T wants to support nonprofits that provide help in the areas of diversity, responsible use of technology, and education. Toyota wants to provide help to nonprofits that address the areas of car seat safety, family literacy, green environmental solutions, and disaster relief. And so that's just some basic information on some companies out there that have a specific focus on nonprofits that they want to help. And if your nonprofit is looking for volunteers and you address some of those areas, try to approach those companies and see if they will want to volunteer for you. All right. So we've talked about, we're talking about the deep volunteer recruitment that you do, where you have a specific task and specific people that you need for a very highly skilled and important role. So we've talked about how you don't want to just advertise this everywhere. Instead, you want to actively pursue people, right? Whether it's an organization that has a focus on the area that you're addressing, or maybe people you know that have skills that would address the volunteer need that you have, right? So you want to actively pursue these people and ask them. And in Aubrey Malphurs and Will Mancini's book called Building Leaders, they provide 4 ways to ask that I think are really good. They have the need-based ask, where you say, I need someone to fill this important role, and I think you will be a good fit. You walk up to the person and you say, I need someone to fulfill this important role, and I think you will be a good fit. That's the need-based ask. A second way to ask is relationship-based ask, where you say to the potential volunteer, I know you want to help and serve others, and I think you can do that more in this volunteer position. Okay? That's the relationship-based ask. Then you have the significance-based ask, where you say, you say to the potential volunteers, you have some of the skills and strengths that I need for blank, this volunteer position. Okay? That's a significance-based ask. Then the fourth way to ask is a vision-based ask, where you say to the potential volunteer, as you know, our vision is to create a safe place for all children to go after school. Would you be interested in serving with us to make that vision real? That's the vision-based ask. You provide the vision and you try to hook them in. And if you've seen my video in this series about how to use vision to recruit volunteers, that is the vision ask that I described in that video and that Aubrey Malphurs and Will Mancini describe here in their 4 ways to ask. Okay? So when you're actively pursuing volunteers, it's good to remember that you're going to have to ask, more likely. Look for the person that you want, go ask them. It's good to remember that if they say no, no does not mean never, okay? Sometimes no means I'm interested, just not now. Sometimes no means I'm really busy and I'm interested, but it's easier just to say no and not pursue further. So if someone does say no, try to ask, why'd you say no? What's going on? How come you're not interested in this position? If someone says no, it's good to remember that if they say no, you can always follow up later, right? So if you're asking someone to volunteer and you think they'd be a good fit and they say no, say, okay, I appreciate it. I know you're busy. Would it be okay to follow up with you 6 months from now and see if your schedule allows you to volunteer then? And usually they'll be okay with that. And then most importantly, if someone says no and you have permission to follow up, make sure that you follow up, okay? So these are the 2 strategies that you can use when recruiting volunteers for your nonprofit organization. You can cast wide and then you can cast deep. You go wide when you need lots of volunteers for basic duties and responsibilities, and then you go deep when you only need a few volunteers for specific roles that require a lot of training, education, and help. My name is Christopher Scott from the ChristopherScottBlog.com. This has been a training trying to help you recruit more volunteers. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you for listening and watching.